All right, so let's start. Okay.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to
All
it.
right. So global supply chains have faced growing challenges highlighted by COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, and now our war in our region. Our research at the National Security Research Institute focuses on how Israel can secure a reliable and affordable supply of goods and raw materials to ensure food security. And by doing so, the country can also enhance its national resilience. So, as an expert in technology and international affairs, how do you see the role of emerging technologies in addressing global food security challenges?
Um, so let's think about a country like Israel and its place in this global food security conversation. Israel is similar to a number of other countries, Singapore, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, relatively geographically small and potentially vulnerable countries that are net importers of their food. So for that group of countries, alternative proteins in particular can potentially create a world where a greater amount of food can be produced domestically with less arable land, and also potentially a shorter and more secure food supply chain, right? Because there are less elements that could be disrupted along the way. I just want to say a word, though, about the rest of the world, right? Because not every country faces food security challenges like Israel. There's also countries in the global south, low and middle income countries. And their primary food security challenge is in terms of affordability and access. Now, these countries probably aren't going to be on the vanguard of alternative protein consumption because they're still relatively expensive foodstuffs. But they could still benefit from this protein transition because there will then be less competition for the grain staples that could either be used to feed humans or livestock. So there's a way in which every country in the world could benefit from this.
Well, you were one of the contributors to the SICE report, Mitigating Risks and Capturing Opportunity, the Future of Alternative Protein. The report framed alternative protein as a strategic technology. Could you elaborate on this in the context of national security?
We've already talked about one. Food security is national security. Countries like Israel have never really forgotten that. Countries like the United States, where I live, have largely forgotten that. We've become comfortable with being the world's breadbasket. And we have often forgotten that throughout millennia, across many, many societies and civilizations, food security is the first and most core element of national security. It's what you need to feed your citizens, maintain political stability, project armed forces abroad. But if I were the Israeli government, it would be important to me to recognize that beyond just food security, Israel's whole geostrategic position has a lot to do with its technological edge, right? I'll give you an example of the Abraham Accords, normalization with the UAE. That was not unrelated to technology sharing arrangements that different Israeli companies had with the UAE. It is a fact that Israel's regional strategy involves creating technologies that then are shareable and create a kind of strategic asset for the country. And I see no reason why food would not be one of those strategic assets in the future.
In Israel, we have seen success in government-supported innovation ecosystems, particularly in water technology. How can we apply this lesson to support emerging food technologies, including alternative proteins?
One thing that the government can do, and really its central mission, is to remedy market failures. So we know that there are massively important technologies that exist today that would not have come about as quickly or with the scale that they did if it were left purely to private incentives. And green energy technologies would be a major example of that, right? We needed government to provide seed money for new ventures when there really wasn't a provider of capital that could bring to bear enough money and be as patient and tolerate some risk. Another role is fundamental research. But we know that when government leads in fundamental research, the benefits to the economy, to national security, to the society are many, many fold, orders of magnitude beyond what was spent. Another thing that governments can do is create useful infrastructure that enables research and innovative capacity. We now know China is a total behemoth in terms of that patient capital and that government funding of technology, not just at the lower ends, which it's done in prior decades, but at the leading edge in areas like 5G, AI, and increasingly food technology has been identified by Xi Jinping. And so if I were in Israel, an Israeli government official or a Singaporean government official or a Dutch government official, and these are countries that are already doing a lot, I would be keen to continue this race to the top as more and more governments are making big plays in these key emerging technologies.
So while Israel has successfully addressed in its water challenges, the broader region still faces water scarcity issues. And the entire area, including Israel, is confronting the impacts of climate change. How do you see the potential of alternative proteins in addressing these regional challenges?
Yeah. Water is such a huge discussion here because agriculture, and in particular animal agriculture, is one of the leading users of water in many locations around the world. So alternative proteins are really a potential breakthrough technology here because they can use 95, 99% less water in many cases. And this is quite important to Israel, whether it's Israel facing the water challenge or whether it's a neighbor like Jordan that could face some kind of water or food shock in the future. If that were to happen, that would have significant impact for Israel's national security for a variety of different reasons. So the more we can invest in technologies that can alleviate the overall regional pressure on scarce resources like water and land, the more that we can create the conditions, not necessarily sufficient conditions, but necessary conditions to start to create a more stable regional security architecture. It's not always just about creating enough food at lower prices. There's important security challenges that are separate from that. But I really do believe that food technology could be a massively important enabler in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Galit. Great conversation.